Hi, I'm Laura Hartnett with Law by Design, and I'm excited to be back today for another in my series of business books for lawyers, where I share some of the wisdom from business books that you probably didn't have the time to read, but are highly applicable to lawyers. Today, I am so excited to be talking about Think Again by Adam Grant. You may know Adam Grant from his prior books, such as Originals, or his podcast, All About Work, which is fantastic. This book argues that we get in this tunnel vision of life where we wear our tried and true beliefs and we march up the mountain carrying these beliefs, refusing to let them go. I know a lot of lawyers like that, especially if you had a vision of what lawyering would be like. And what Adam says is even when our vision doesn't turn out to be true, we still keep those beliefs on our back and we still keep trudging up that mountain. We've got grit, we've got determination, we're gonna show them. When actually those beliefs are weighing us down. And those beliefs, especially for businesses and organizations, can have disastrous consequences and sometimes fatal ones. And he gives a lot of great examples about that. So what this book is about instead is how do we examine our beliefs and how do we rethink them? And how do we continue to rethink them so we don't just do it once and think that we're done? It's definitely of note that he's talking to attorneys here. It's certainly a broader audience, but I know when he says, the smarter you are and the more skilled you are at thinking, the harder it's going to be to rethink your thoughts. And I thought, oh my gosh, he's talking to lawyers here. So that's the bad news. It's going to be really hard because you're a really good thinker. But there's also good news. He points out specifically about lawyers that lawyers are by nature critical, skeptical, and challenging. So just as we're good at those skills, we just need to turn them on ourselves, turn them on our profession, think about ways that we're doing things and think about them differently. So we have the tool set. There's so much from this book that I could pull from to share, and I'm going to share 2 actionable ideas that you can start to make sure that you're not carrying those big, heavy beliefs that aren't getting you anywhere. The first step is to have a challenge network, specifically to disagree with you. I'm not talking about going down the hall to that guy who always tells you you're wrong and loves to disagree. I'm not talking about him. I am talking about the people that care about you, but also want to challenge you and are willing to play that role. I see litigators do this all the time. They go and have a mock hearing or a mock trial before they go to court to argue the big case. They specifically bring in the opposing counsel, someone playing the opposing counsel, to challenge them. But we do it in these formal ways. Why don't we do it in informal ways? Why don't we do it in other situations besides before the big trial? Adam Grant points out that quality means rethinking, reworking, and polishing. All things we know. We all remember the 3rd, the 4th draft that we used to do when we were maybe in law school or a first-year associate. But I feel like as we get further and further from law school, we forget that it takes a lot of rethinking in order to get quality. And so that's something to go back to. So form a challenge network, specifically to disagree with you. A second great idea to pull out of this book is to try to switch your organization from a performance culture to a learning culture. What are these? I'll explain. A performance culture is one that has an emphasis on results. It's fueled by a great deal of overconfidence, a reliance on experts. And if there's anyone in the organization who maybe doesn't have some of that confidence, that they look to those experts for all the answers. Does this sound familiar? This sounds like a lot of legal workplaces where we are driven by the results, we're driven by the expertise. But what Adam Grant argues is that's not going to cause us to rethink some of our tried and true beliefs that aren't helping us. What we need to do instead is switch to a learning culture. A learning culture is fueled by growth and rethinking. It's created through something that he calls psychological safety. It's a bit more complex, but I want to get it into one thing that you can do today that you can create psychological safety in your team where they feel like they can grow and they can rethink in part of the culture. And that's if you lead a team of people at your next team meeting, I want you to come out and share a time where you received constructive feedback. You thought, yeah, absolutely, I could do better on that. And how you're working to implement that constructive criticism. Just by sharing that with the people who report to you, the people who are more junior than you, your colleagues, that helps to create an environment where other people think, oh yeah, they get criticism. They're working. I can do that too. Actually, Adam Grant said in organizations that had a longer, more lasting impact than just giving feedback from the junior associates to the more senior associates. It sounds familiar because it's a job interview question. What are your greatest weaknesses? And anyone who answers that question knows, give a real weakness, but talk about how you're working on it. That's what Adam Grant wants you to do. So that's one way. When lawyers don't know, how can we be more vulnerable at work? How can we be more authentic? That is one actionable way that the research shows you can create psychological safety at work. Hopefully those two things are helpful. But also I want to mention, Chapter 5 is all about debating and negotiating. It is a must read if you are an attorney that negotiates anything. And I'm talking you negotiate with opposing counsel, sometimes with your clients, sometimes with your staff. It's all about, we need to spend more time thinking about what the common ground is and how to prepare for it. It's different than anything I've received in negotiation training, and Chapter 5 is a must read. Also, Chapter 7 and Chapter 8 are all about how you want to change other people's minds. If you are a judge, if you are a mediator, if you are a lobbyist, if you work in public policy, and heck, if you just find yourself needing to change your clients' minds a lot of the time, Chapter 7 and 8 really break down how you help others rethink. And I'll give you a hint. What doesn't work is conveying the ideas in black and white. What works is adding complexity. And before you get excited about that, because I know lawyers can add some complexity, it's about creating the right amount of complexity and not too much, as sometimes we have the tendency to overdo it with. Finally, one last note on this book that you can only get if you flip through it. Adam Grant has added such great graphics throughout. Now, these aren't fancy schmancy graphics. These are something that you could create in just a matter of minutes with Microsoft Word. But what they do as you go through the book is that they break up the text, they illuminate a principle that he's trying to share, and they add a little bit of humor. You find yourself looking at those and going, oh, these are so great. And that's something you can take away into your own practice. I'm a huge fan of adding graphics or color or some sort of just simple visual design to your legal work products. And Adam does a great job with that here too. This is what I do. I help lawyers rethink their practice of law so they can provide for clients what clients actually want and in ways that are so much better for lawyers. But it requires thinking again. So if you keep thinking about these ideas, or if you feel stuck and need some help in how to rethink, get in touch. We'll set up a time to chat, and I'd love to hear about how you want to rethink your practice of law. Until then, have a great day, and thanks for watching.